What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here on Off the Script. This is episode 380 for your Saturday, June 12th, 2021. I'm your host, JD from New York. We are live in Austin, Texas. The venue's with me. I'm in the hotel room right now. And we got a lot of news to go over, man. I hate being away from where I am, and I'm centralized in New York during a week like this because there's just so much news as we get ready for SummerSlam. There's so much news coming out regarding SummerSlam. There's news coming out regarding what WWE wants to do for the rest of the year. There's rumors now that The Rock is being planned for the Survivor Series. WWE wants Survivor Series. They hope to be in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, in New York City. And they want The Rock for that. I don't know why they want him for that specific event when The Rock's name has been pretty much tied to Wrestlemania in Los Angeles for WrestleMania 40. I don't know what that means. We're going to go over that big story. I got news on SummerSlam. What is the length of SummerSlam this year? What is WWE's mindset with the Manny Pacquiao fight happening in Las Vegas the same night? Is it going to be another 6-hour event, being that they're in Allegiant Stadium, filling 60,000 seats? Is it going to be shorter like we've seen all the other pay-per-views this year, and especially during the pandemic? I got news on that. I got news on Aleister Black. Apparently, WWE now, internally, there are some in the company that want to bring Aleister Black back to the WWE, but if you guys heard me on the Friday Night SmackDown AEW Dynamite Super Show, that ain't really happening. And they may have lost Tommy End, Aleister Black, to AEW. So we will go over what the internal feeling is on WWE and Aleister Black and potentially bringing him in again. Where does his wife, Thea Trinidad, sit in all of this? I got news on Big E. Why isn't Big E on television? I got news on Bray Wyatt. Why is WWE keeping him off of television? And the big one today, guys, Triple H. He had his Takeover NXT in your house conference call like he usually does before these big Takeover shows. And he said the most outlandish, idiotic, and downright stupid comment in regards to fan frustration that I think I've ever heard. If you've heard anything from WWE up until this point, Triple H said, "Hold my beer." I'm going to top that one, and you guys are not going to believe what I'm going to say here. And it was all started by Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer asked this question, and Triple H, very sassy during this conference call, he came off in the worst I think I've ever seen him. And it made me second guess what I've been saying all these years. Is he really the guy that's going to take over WWE when Vince McMahon is no longer there? Is this the same guy that we all had hopes in, that we were ready to put our trust in to take WWE and fix it? I don't know anymore. Not with these comments. So we're going to go over that, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here on episode 380. If it looks a little bit different, just take into consideration that I am in Austin, Texas. I am not in my home office. So if things look off, I did my best to make it look like it usually does. I got some elaborate setup here in the hotel room that I'm staying in. If it sounds a little bit echoey, it's because I'm out in the open space. If the light seems off or if things don't seem crisp, if you're watching it on YouTube, you know, I can't really help it, man. I was losing sleep over making sure everything looked right for you guys here in this particular episode. So I want to throw that out there. Hopefully you enjoy what you see, and I hope what you hear is something that you guys enjoy as well. If you guys are new to the channel, I would appreciate it. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for all notifications. If you guys want to follow me on social media, you know what to do, at JD from NY206. That is on Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to support the podcast, you could do that in a variety of ways. Number one, Patreon. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. If you guys want to go get your t-shirts, bonfire.com is the home, the exclusive shop of Off the Script. Make sure you guys go check out all the other videos that you might have missed on the channel this week. Some big news, man, coming out of Raw. Worst Monday Night Raw ending, possibly of all time. So we went over that on Monday. We did NXT, no AEW, obviously, on Wednesday. So we merged another super show on Friday with Dynamite and SmackDown into one. So make sure you guys go check all that stuff out on the homepage for you. Go and check it if you missed it. And today's show is sponsored by my great friends over at Dr. Squatch, drsquatch.com. Use code SCRIPT at checkout for 20% off everything, man. They got shampoos, conditioners, cologne, deodorant, you name it, man. They are number one in men's hygiene, and I am so grateful that they are a part of my sponsor family right here on Off the Script. That's drsquatch.com. I don't leave home without it, man. I got me some Squatch here in the hotel room. It's one of the first things that I packed. So go get your Squatch, drsquatch.com. And listen, man, Father's Day's coming up. Makes a great Father's Day gift as well. Believe me. drsquatch.com. Use code SCRIPT at checkout. Let's start at the top, guys. SummerSlam. I want to talk SummerSlam right off the top. Is it going to be a 6-hour show like we've seen in the past, or is WWE going to keep with what they have been doing and keep it at 3.5 hours at max? Now, this is because of the Manny Pacquiao fight against Earl Spence in Las Vegas. That's happening that same Saturday. As SummerSlam, WWE announced that they will be in Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Raiders, and they will try and fill 60,000 seats. Don't know what they have planned for the card, but according to sources, they want to make this year's WrestleMania, which I don't necessarily like the vibe of. I don't really like that verbiage. There should only be one WrestleMania. I don't know why you are looking at other events to make WrestleMania or this year's WrestleMania. You had all the resources available to do WrestleMania this year like you would have had any other time during a normal year, and you went about it lazy. They didn't really do anything to make it an exciting show. It was legitimately a two-match, two-night pay-per-view. Yeah, both main events on night one and night two, and that was legitimately the only reason why anybody cared about this year's WrestleMania. It was Sasha, Bianca, and it was Edge, Bryan, and Roman Reigns, and that was it. So outside that, WrestleMania was, to me, a complete bust. Now they're making SummerSlam into this year's WrestleMania. I guess because they have more resources. They have potentially John Cena coming back, which that could not happen for WrestleMania. They have Edge. They have Brock Lesnar back potentially for SummerSlam. Who knows where Daniel Bryan's contract situation sits? You know, you want to make SummerSlam into the WrestleMania of 2021. I already got done explaining that they had all the resources to do that for WrestleMania this year, but they went about it in the most laziest fashion. But isn't SummerSlam something that you should book like this every single year? I said this on social media. You know, WrestleVotes tweeted out that they want to make this year's SummerSlam into WrestleMania. Shouldn't that be the mentality every single year with SummerSlam? I don't know why you need to wait because things are getting back to normal after a pandemic to book SummerSlam the way SummerSlam should be booked. This is the type of mentality and this is the type of effort that you should put into SummerSlam every single year. And I do believe, and I said this about the live shows at the Performance Center, those are the same shows that you would have saw on Monday night and Friday night anyway, even in the middle of a normal year. Well, because it's the pandemic, they're operating with a short roster. They're operating with not as much resources as they usually have. Bullshit. I don't believe that for 1 second. These are the same shows that you would have gotten inside a normal year. So WWE simply using the pandemic as an excuse to make this year's SummerSlam big, this is the way SummerSlam should be booked every single year. If this was a normal year, would WWE be going about booking SummerSlam as this year's WrestleMania? No, the show would have been booked 3 weeks out. You wouldn't have had one match announced outside of a possible Roman Reigns match, and the rest of the card would be subjected to creative indifference. So give me a break with WWE's making SummerSlam this year's WrestleMania. No, it should be like that every single year. SummerSlam should always be treated as the second most important show of the entire year. And I firmly believe in what I just stated. That's just the typical vibe that I get from WWE when they come to these types of conclusions. Oh, we got to make it big. Why? Because you're coming off a pandemic year? Come on, man. SummerSlam. supposedly, according to Meltzer, is going to be a shorter show this year. I don't know how that's going to be. You're going to leave off a lot of talent if it's going to be a shorter show, because most of this show is going to be filled with part-timers, because that's what they're going to need to do to fill Allegiant Stadium. Meltzer noted on The Observer that WWE asked to go off the airtime so that fans that want to get to the Manny Pacquiao fight against Earl Spence Jr. can get there in time. Oh, so now they're being a little bit more understanding to the fans that want to go and catch that boxing event. Who's to say that those same boxing people, the fans that are going to that show, are going to go and attend SummerSlam? There's going to be one specific group of people attending SummerSlam, and there's going to be one specific group of people going to watch Manny Pacquiao fight Earl Spence. There's not going to be a mixing. Maybe a very, very small, minuscule amount of people are going to do both. And those are the people that have money to spend that type of money on those types of events. I don't think it's really going to correlate one into the other. So he says that SummerSlam is going to be about 3 hours. It's going to start at 8 p.m. The boxing pay-per-view will air the same time as SummerSlam's main event, and the main event is not supposed to start until midnight, meaning the Manny Pacquiao fight's not going to start until midnight. So WWE may want to be off the air at 11 o'clock. So that's their mentality. 8 p.m. Eastern, which means they will run approximately for 3 hours for SummerSlam, which typically should be the standard pay-per-view no matter what's happening. 6-hour pay-per-views are a thing of the past. You cannot do that anymore. We need 2-night WrestleManias. We need shorter pay-per-views. Quality over quantity is the way to go about things. But this company, they do quantity over quality. There's no word yet on why this show is starting later than usual. WWE has this stated at being 8 o'clock Eastern for SummerSlam. All shows, as you guys know, have started 7 p.m. So they're going to do 8 p.m., run to 11 p.m. There's no word yet on why they're starting later than usual. However, one has to assume that WWE would be able to put on some matches on the kickoff show, which may be 7 to 8 or 7:30 to 8. I don't know how long their pre-shows are going to be or what they're going to put on the pre-show. They may add some matches that aren't going on the main card on the pre-show and kind of spawn it off as or play it off as, hey, this is SummerSlam. No, it's not. The pre-show is not SummerSlam. Because when you go back and watch the event on Peacock, you're not going to get the pre-show. You're going to get what starts at 8 p.m. and nothing before that. I love how people think, oh, the pre-show is SummerSlam. It's not. It never was and never will be. Meltzer noted that there were some headaches before WWE locking in Allegiant Stadium. At one point, the plan was to run on Sunday, but the stadium asked them to run the show on Saturday night. That's what they wanted. And if WWE wanted Allegiant Stadium, then they had to abide by what the people of the stadium, the people that own the building, wanted them to do. There was talk of not running the show at all in Las Vegas because of the Manny Pacquiao fight. At one point, it looks like the main card for SummerSlam will run from 8 p.m., like I said, to 11, or a little shorter than that, possibly. It may go a little bit longer, maybe to 11:30. I have no idea. It's expected that there will be somewhere between 60 and 70,000 fans in attendance for SummerSlam's card. Roman Reigns and John Cena is the rumored main event for SummerSlam. The idea is that since they couldn't get a full house for WrestleMania, that they will do a WrestleMania caliber show with SummerSlam in Allegiant Stadium, where the Las Vegas, the LA Raiders play. The Las Vegas Raiders, what are they called? I have no fucking idea. I'm not a football guy. But this is exactly where they wanted WrestleMania 39. They wanted to do Dallas next year, and then 39 in Allegiant Stadium, and then SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California for WrestleMania 40. So that's what they want to do. So they're giving you pretty much WrestleMania in the form of SummerSlam in Allegiant Stadium, where they wanted this not next year, but the year after that. So they're doing it this year. I don't know why they're rushing out to do everything, because things are getting back to normal. You don't need to do that. You would have saved yourself a ton of headache by not having SummerSlam in Las Vegas and then directly competing with a boxing match that's going to do mega numbers. They want to do so much so quick, I don't think it's necessary. You could have easily run a smaller venue and then slowly but surely get back to that 60, 70,000 capacity for attendance. They didn't want to do that. So here we are. Vegas, SummerSlam. WWE's got all these things that they want to do and how they want to approach it. All I know is if they're going to do SummerSlam and make it a WrestleMania caliber event, all I need to tell you, let me go over, before I get into the next story, I tweeted out my projected card for SummerSlam, and it got incredible reaction on Twitter. This is the type of show that WWE is going to need to put on if they want to fill 60,000 seats inside Allegiant Stadium. The rumored main event is Roman Reigns versus John Cena. So that's the biggest match that you could possibly do right now. And we'll get into The Rock. WWE wants The Rock for Survivor Series in New York City. We'll talk about that in a second. Reigns and Cena is the biggest match that you could possibly do at SummerSlam. It tells a great story. This is not the same Roman Reigns that we got back in 2017 when he feuded with John Cena for that one-off match at No Mercy. That was the same show that Braun Strowman took one F5 from Brock Lesnar and was defeated. That pretty much solidified his fate in WWE. He never recovered from that. John Cena versus Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. If you're bringing back Lesnar, which I would assume they do for 70,000 seats, you're going to need a name like Lesnar. So that's the biggest match that you could possibly do with Brock Lesnar upon returning, which right now is slim pickings as far as matchups for Lesnar is concerned. And Lashley does not need the WWE Championship. You could do that match without the WWE title being on the line. If the WWE title's on the line in a match against Brock Lesnar, then WWE will have every reason to give Lesnar the championship back because he's a much bigger name than anybody else on the entire roster. And then the title will be held hostage for another 6 months. We don't need that. I think everybody's completely over Brock Lesnar holding championships. His value isn't coming in and winning championships anymore. His value is coming in and giving you marquee matchups that we've never seen before, which right now, again, like I said, are slim pickings. Lashley, Riddle, Keith Lee, if he's still alive. That's what you need to do with Brock Lesnar. Drew McIntyre versus Finn Balor. They may or may not wait till the draft, which apparently is happening after SummerSlam. If they do Balor, it may happen after SummerSlam. They may do Jinder Mahal versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, and they may be able to get away with that undercard match because if you got Reigns and Cena, and then you got Lashley and Lesnar, WWE may actually use that as an excuse to give us McIntyre and Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship. If Drew McIntyre wins the title like I expect him to do at Hell in a Cell, there isn't many heels for him to work with on Monday Night Raw. And they've already teased Jinder Mahal several times. We haven't seen him since, but maybe they're holding off on that. I don't know. I would prefer Balor. I think it's the bigger match, but I would not be surprised if they go Jinder Mahal. Edge and Daniel Bryan finish that up. I think Bryan will be back. I think he's just taking a little break right now to kind of heal up. He's probably banged up a little bit, and they're going to give him whatever he wants because if they don't, then they're foolish. Edge will be there because he's working the Brock Lesnar schedule. He'll be back. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. That's obviously happening again. I mean, all directions lead after Bianca's done with Bayley to go right back to Sasha. Becky Lynch, I expect back by SummerSlam, especially with fans coming back. I do Becky Lynch on SmackDown against Bayley. That's a big marquee women's match. Big E, you got no plans for Big E, according to sources. I got plans for Big E. Put him against Seth Rollins. That was my WrestleMania match this year. Let's do it at SummerSlam. Big E versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. It fits into the whole Rollins agenda that they're pushing right now, and Big E needs somebody top tier to work with. If you guys want Big E to be in the main event scene sooner rather than later, I think he needs to start beating names like Seth Rollins. Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. They will win the tag team championships, in my opinion, against Omos and AJ Styles. Usos versus the Mysterios. Apollo Crews versus Cesaro for the Intercontinental Championship. Sheamus versus Damian Priest for the United States Championship. And then we do Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens just simply because I didn't know where else to put them. I don't want to see it anymore, but it's quite sad that WWE Creative doesn't know what to do with either guy, and they always end up right back fighting each other. That's my SummerSlam card. You want to sell out 60,000 seats? That's what you do. Simple. I mentioned the draft. WWE's got a draft coming up at the end of August following SummerSlam. As if the draft is going to make any difference to how good or bad Monday Night Raw is. It actually might make Monday Night Raw worse. I have no idea. Andrew Zarian of the Matt Man podcast reported this week that the draft will be held over the course of 2 dates. Just like the previous years, the first nights will take place on August 30th for Monday Night Raw and then September 3rd on Friday Night SmackDown. They're not even a ratings draw anymore. I don't know why we just don't merge certain portions of the division. You don't really need a draft. You could do some trades, but you don't really need a draft. You could do a draft if you want, but what the whole moral of the story is, look at the women's division on both Monday Night Raw and Friday night. There's no names to keep it competitive until the next time you decide to do a draft, which may be the following August. We don't know. There's no tag teams in either division. Both are hemorrhaging fucking just garbage every single week. It's the same shit. How many times do we have to see the Mysterios versus Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler? How many times do we need to see tag team guys wrestling singles because you don't have any other teams to put them up against? It's ridiculous. Merge the women's divisions and merge the men's tag team divisions. If the women's tag team championships can float back and forth between Raw and SmackDown, why can't the men's tag team championships do that? It would benefit both shows. You got more superstars on both shows. I don't think either network, Fox or NBC Universal, would have a problem with that. But it makes the shows better. Why isn't anybody in the camp of making both Raw and SmackDown better viewing experiences? That's the one way to go about that. Charlotte would have more opponents to feast on. There'd be more competition in the women's division. You get women from Raw and SmackDown, women from SmackDown on Raw. You get Asuka versus Bianca, Asuka versus Bayley. You need something new. How many times can we see Asuka and Charlotte in the ring on Monday night? I can't take it anymore. Tag team division, women's division needs to be merged. If you want to move around other pieces in the mid-card for the IC and US title, by all means, come up with plans to make sure things are right there. Same thing for the Universal and WWE Championship scenes. Everybody needs to be in a position where they are in a division, main event scene. Come up with plans who you want there. Keep them there. Then the mid-card should be used for guys that you want to be the ones to move up eventually to that main event scene. Your plan should be to take everybody in that main event scene and make them into main event players so that you have more main event players at the end of the year. You have nobody. There's nobody for Reigns right now. Think about it. There's nobody for Roman Reigns on SmackDown, so much that they're already looking outside for Cena and The Rock. What does that say about anybody else? You don't want to put anybody else in that position to feed off of the energy that Reigns is giving off right now to make them bigger, especially with fans back? The draft is useless. Unless you listen to me, which I've been stating this for the last 6 years, nothing is going to work. 3 hours of Monday Night Raw with a new draft, I give you 4 weeks max, and you'll be seeing rematches on Monday Night Raw. The draft doesn't work in the current state that Monday Night Raw sits in right now. If Raw was 2 hours, I might have a different story to tell you, but I don't. But Monday Night Raw being 3 hours, if you're going to do a draft, you're going to start seeing rematches very quickly. Unless you're going to load that show up with the majority of your roster right now between both shows, it's not going to work. Merge the fucking rosters is the only decision that I think is logical. But they won't do that. Because then you got Fox breathing down your neck, and you got NBC Universal breathing down your neck. It's not going to work. It's going to be some internal politics bullshit going on there. And that's all I hear. You can't do it because the networks don't want it. Fuck the networks. The shows are absolutely at the worst they've ever been. And unless you want this to continue, then you need to start doing things to make the fans happy. Fans don't want to see rematches every single week because that's all we've been subjected to. So the draft is coming. Not sure how excited you guys are about that, but it's not even used as a ratings ploy anymore. It's just embarrassing to see where the current product sits right now. More WWE cuts are on the way after the 16 that have already been cut, including Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, and others. You guys know all the names. I don't need to go over them again. 16 superstars since April, and they are not finished trimming the payroll. The company is rumored to be setting itself up for a sale. I don't know how likely that is. That's all hearsay for now, but that might not happen this year. I gave a prediction possibly around WrestleMania 40. 40 seems like a big round number to WWE to, I guess, unleash a major announcement like that. I could see that maybe happening in the next couple of years. But Ringside News exclusively reports that Vince McMahon is looking for NXT call-ups. I don't know why. I don't know who. But you all know how this goes. He calls up somebody, he likes them for 2 weeks, and then buries them, or better yet, sits them in catering and forgets they even exist. I don't want to see it. But that's what's happening. He is looking for NXT call-ups. Like I mentioned on one of the earlier videos that I did on that major live stream that I did about the draft. Or not the draft, the cuts. When it actually happened on that Black Wednesday. I said it that week on that weekend's Off the Script. WWE is looking to NXT while they're cutting all these major contracts that they gave these people just to keep them away from AEW. WWE is now looking internally to fill those spots with names that they could potentially use who are making significantly less money. But you already cut some of these names that you never even given opportunities to. So it's almost like they're hurting themselves, and they want us to believe that they're going to go in-house to replace all these bigger names. But we all know that when they want to go in-house, it's only up to one guy, and that's Vince McMahon, and he typically doesn't end up pushing anybody. You may get 5 people called up, and he may be lucky to get one guy that he likes and pushes on the show. And the other 4, you call them up for no reason from NXT, and then they sit around doing nothing, and then worse yet, they may get released. So that's the whole story with Vince McMahon looking to NXT. He may or may not like you, but he needs you to fill a role because he just fired millions of dollars worth of payroll. So he's looking to NXT. He doesn't want wrestlers. What does that mean? He doesn't want wrestlers. He wants characters. This might not be something that you are prone to hearing, but Vince wants characters. And I've said this several times myself. I think we need to go in a more character-driven WWE future. I think we need more characters on TV. I think everybody's pretty much settled into being the same. How many Ricochets can you have on the main roster? How many Alis can you have on the main roster? You know? This may actually bode well for Adam Cole. He's not really a character. He's one of the best pro wrestlers on the planet, but if Vince is looking for characters, he may actually overlook Adam Cole, and Adam Cole may be spared. Who knows? This might be worth taking into consideration as we carry on with WWE into the summer. Andrew Zarian, whose name has been all over the place, good guy, Andrew, works for The Observer. Matt Men is a part of The Observer family, his podcast, Matt Men Pro Wrestling Podcast, confirmed that he was told that WWE is not finished releasing superstars. At this point, it's not known how many will be cut, but when the company does hand down these releases, obviously it hits Twitter first, and then all of us go crazy on giving our opinions. He doesn't know how many more releases are on the way either. More superstars are destined to lose their jobs at this rate. He says, and I quote, "I do know that they want to cut back on these contracts, and there are more releases on the way. There will be more. I don't know when. I was told this isn't the final cut, so we will see." End quote. Like I said, they cut 16 superstars in order to trim the fat, in order for Nick Khan to go buy a $7 million mansion in paradise. They want to cut everybody so that the president of WWE can go live a lavish lifestyle. Nobody reported that, though. Nobody's seemingly making that a big deal. I think that's awful. Should be made a big deal. WWE is a sinking fucking ship, man. Run by greedy fucking people. It's disgusting. I don't know who else is going to be cut, but if I was to name, I don't want to throw these names out there before I move on to the next story. I don't want to put these names out there, but just based on what I've heard and what I've seen and some of the reports over the last several years, I could see Jeff Hardy being released. I could see Shinsuke Nakamura being released. I could see Ricochet being released. I could see Keith Lee being released. I could see these men being released. Now, again, I don't want to make this news, but this is just my honest opinion. I would imagine Jeff has asked for his release already. Look at what he is doing in WWE. Nothing. Nakamura, I don't think he's happy. Chad Gable, another one. His contract is seemingly due up. They may release him before his contract is up, just so that he has to serve a 90-day non-compete, you know? Guys like that I could see being released, but how many more are you going to release? You got 5 hours of Raw and SmackDown during the week. How often are you going to present fresh programming if you continue to release these men and women from the main roster? I don't know, man. We'll see. I don't want anybody to get fired, but if we can fill the venue with 3,300 people like we did 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, I'm all for it. We'll talk about it, and then obviously we will be real with everybody. Brock Lesnar. It's a reality that he may be back in the WWE sooner rather than later. People in WWE seemingly want to save his return for a match with a top star. I don't know who is a top star outside of Roman Reigns, but I can name a couple of matches that I'd like to see with Brock Lesnar, and I've already mentioned them in the first story. We got Lesnar-Lashley, Lesnar-Riddle, and Lesnar-Lee. Those are the three matches. That's it. There's nobody else on the main roster. Maybe a Nakamura, being that they have a little history. But I doubt it. John Cena versus Roman Reigns, heavily rumored for the SummerSlam main event. There's also been speculation about a Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley WWE title match at the show, which I think is a colossal failure. I think it's a mistake. Andrew Zarian. Andrew's all over the place, bro. Get me in. You seem to be more of a VIP than I could really even allow into this venue. My buddy Andrew. Hopefully I'll have a couple of drinks with him next week. Talked about talked about all this on the Matt Men podcast, about how Lesnar's name was mentioned in the early plans for SummerSlam's card. Lashley and Drew McIntyre mentioned Lesnar's name on Monday Night Raw a few weeks ago as well. Lashley has made it clear that he wants to wrestle Lesnar. He's been very vocal about it wherever he's been interviewed, but it hasn't been booked yet. Don't know why. And the only thing I could come up with is WWE's doing it out of spite. Or maybe the reality of the situation is we are looking at Lesnar not wanting to wrestle Bobby Lashley. Maybe it's Lesnar. Maybe it's Brock Lesnar saying, I don't want Bobby Lashley because there's going to be a conflict of interest there. Because we're both MMA, quote unquote, MMA guys. I don't know. A lot of ego there, man. Dave Meltzer noted on Sunday's Observer that Lesnar versus Lashley wasn't planned for SummerSlam as of 1 week ago. He also noted that some in WWE want to hold off on Lesnar's return so we can do a possible WrestleMania match with Reigns. He says, and I quote, my impression is that Reigns and Cena is happening. I don't know that 100%. Nobody's confirmed it. When I asked about it, no one ever denies it. Lesnar, they deny. For whatever reason, they deny Lesnar. In fact, I could go as far as to say, as of 1 week ago, Lesnar and Lashley was not on the SummerSlam card. It can always change. They can always call him. They can always offer him money. He will do it if the price is right, obviously. Again, it's up to Vince McMahon, but they had not made the call as of 1 week ago. Now, to stop Meltzer here before I continue on with whatever he said left, WWE may not be releasing that information. As you guys know, throughout all the years that we've seen Lesnar do Lesnar things, Lesnar appearances, Lesnar matches, booking, producing of Lesnar matches and feuds, everything is kept in Fort Knox. You don't know anything. I don't know anything. Nobody knows anything. Meltzer has been in this business for as long as he has. And why would WWE give that type of information out when fans are about to come back? Things are about to get back to normal. They're about to go on the road. Why would WWE give away their ace in the hole, which is Brock Lesnar? Why would they tell anybody who he's wrestling, if he's wrestling, when he's coming back, when he's wrestling, what programs he's going to be in, what the plans are for? Why would anybody in WWE reveal that to anyone? A Sapp, a Meltzer, anybody. Mike Johnson. They're not going to reveal that information. So we could be looking at a situation where he does show up on WWE TV. He is included on SummerSlam's card, but nobody's going to know. The only people that know are Vince, Brock, and Paul Heyman. That's it. There's nobody else. It's Heyman, Lesnar, and Vince. Heyman is directly responsible for producing and booking everything Lesnar. Heyman and Lesnar tell Vince what they want to do. Vince doesn't tell Lesnar what he wants to do. Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar want to do something. They want to show up. They want to come back. They want to be here. They want to be there. They tell Vince, and they get what they want. It's not the other way around. There's very, very, very minute details about Lesnar that are only known within those three people's camp. So I don't understand why everybody's getting up and, Lesnar's not going to be there. They got to fill 70,000 fucking seats. Is Reigns and Cena going to be the only match that people are going to come to fill 60,000 seats in Allegiant Stadium? They're going to need other marquee matches. You're going to get your Reigns. You're going to get your Cenas. You're going to get your Regis. You're going to get your Lesnars. Maybe a Goldberg. I don't know. I pray to God not. But you're going to get big names like that. So Lesnar, in my honest opinion, will be at SummerSlam. They've already moved his profile from the alum on WWE.com to the active side of the roster. So clearly something internally is happening. You and I won't know until we see him on Raw. Or on SmackDown, wherever they want to put him. If it's, I guess, against Lashley, it might have to be Monday Night Raw. As far as Reigns and Lesnar, I don't do that match this year. I do not think about Reigns and Lesnar this year. As far as I'm concerned, Reigns is not losing that title this year, nor should he. I think it's a colossal failure if he loses that championship this year. Nobody is ready to take that championship off of him. If Reigns and Cena is happening at SummerSlam, Reigns is going over. If The Rock is being rumored for Barclays in Survivor Series, which right now nobody knows, but if that is their plan, Reigns and Rock. They want to do that because I don't think WWE has the willpower or the manpower or the creativity to get Reigns and Rock in Los Angeles 2 years from now. So they may want to do it now while The Rock is still of age, because 2 years from now, he's only going to be 2 years older. He may be more limited in what he could do. So they may be looking at speeding all of this up. And do they want to really keep Reigns as champion for 3 years? Will the fans really appreciate that? He may actually be more hated for that alone, which might not be a bad thing. But they got a lot of moving parts here, man. They got a lot of what they want to do, but nobody knows if it's going to happen or not. A lot of pipe dreams happening in WWE right now. But if you're going to do Lesnar or Reigns, I say get through Cena, try and do The Rock at Survivor Series, and do Lesnar at WrestleMania next year. Why do you need to jump into that? Clearly, there's a story that is brewing there. There's a story that they need to tell there. And I'm sure WrestleMania is the perfect stage for that. But Lesnar will be at SummerSlam. Now, I know there's forces that don't want Lesnar there until it's a feud with Reigns. But do you really want to keep Lesnar off TV until next year's WrestleMania? Because that's a potential WrestleMania match. Lesnar and Reigns is a WrestleMania main event. End quote. Meltzer know that there's a lot when it comes to bringing back Lesnar, whether that's having Lashley beat Lesnar, putting the WWE title back on Lesnar, which is a terrible idea, only for him to work a few matches a year. Not really what I envision for the WWE Championship, and I don't think current WWE programming needs Brock Lesnar to win the championship and disappear until the next major pay-per-view, which will be a Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. That title needs to be on somebody that's going to be there every single week. Follow the Reigns route. Stop putting titles on part-timers. They should be there to enhance everybody else around them. Speaking of The Rock, WWE wants The Rock at Survivor Series this year. Again, this is coming from Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast, recently indicated that Brooklyn will be in line for the Survivor Series this year. Barclays Center is the plan for the Survivor Series, which takes place in November. No date or location, obviously, has been confirmed, but that is the running idea right now. Because Survivor Series is part of the Big Five that WWE has on their pay-per-view calendar, alongside WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and Money in the Bank. Fans should expect to be treated to a major Survivor Series this year. So much so that Dave Meltzer also reported that the WWE hopes The Rock can make an appearance at the Survivor Series as it stands right now, but nothing is locked in. It was speculated that with this appearance by The Rock at their show, it could help build a potential match with the WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns at the upcoming WrestleMania pay-per-view. Now, I don't really think The Rock coming back is, in this case, this soon, the most ideal of situations. I think having Rock in Los Angeles, which right now he resides, being Hollywood Rock, coming in to wrestle Reigns, I guess it really doesn't matter where it is as long as it takes place. But like I said, it may be in WWE's best interest to speed it up, because given the creative bullshit that we see in WWE and how lazy they are and how inept they are at making everything else on their programming just unimportant besides whatever's happening with Roman Reigns. I do think that if they speed it up, it may be more beneficial for Reigns' run. It may be more beneficial for the fans. It may be more beneficial for The Rock, because who knows how good he's going to feel 2 years from now. He may not be where he is right now. He's always going to be in great shape, but that's not really the same as being in ring shape. He's not been in the ring for quite some time. So do they want to do this now? It might fit into the whole Reigns title run and heel run, but is it going to mean just as much now as it will then? Will WWE have Reigns run through all of these part-timers? Will they still be going with Reigns? Are they going to feed him all these guys and then handpick somebody to put over with him, whoever they choose to beat Reigns? We don't know. We don't know what their plan is. I don't even think they have anybody on the roster that's really capable of doing that right now anyway. But The Rock obviously fits into the whole tribal chief, head of the table storyline, and they need to tell that in the most adequate way possible. They need to do that in the most epic, most important way possible, because all of this, I mean, without even mentioning The Rock, I think fans have really come to the conclusion that everything that Reigns has done on this Friday night television program, everything that he stated, everything that he's kind of embodied is pretty much leading to Dwayne Johnson. So we don't know what's happening there, but we will see. We will see. AT&T Stadium in Dallas is the home of WrestleMania 38, WrestleMania 39. They were thinking about doing in SoFi Stadium. I mentioned Las Vegas last time. I got them a little mixed up. 39 was in Las Vegas originally, but now they want to move SoFi Stadium to 39. They want to do Vegas potentially in 40. We don't know. We don't know what their plan is, but The Rock right now in Barclays Center for Survivor Series is the mental plan for WWE. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen, so we don't know yet. Triple H. I once upon a time thought Triple H was the savior of WWE, man. I really did. And I really feel like WWE, when NXT was at its peak, everything that he was doing with NXT was absolutely, bar none, the best pro wrestling in North America. It was the way things should have been booked. It's the way things should have felt. It's just how wrestling should have been. They ran 5 takeovers per year. That was the old WWE model. What is old is new and still works. WWE put a focus on characters in NXT. WWE put a focus on quality over quantity in NXT. WWE put importance on storylines in NXT and let them breathe. You knew every takeover was important because of how important all the storylines were going in. They didn't really oversaturate those cards with 5 to 10 matches. They only did 5 matches on TakeOver, and everything mattered. Everything mattered. Those spots on the pay-per-views were given to those that were being showcased and worked their asses off to get to those points and those positions. We felt like if Triple H did this on the main roster and he took over for Vince McMahon, WWE would be in a completely different state than where we currently see it right now. And I honestly believe then if Triple H was running WWE, things would have been a lot better for the company overall. And we would be in a place right now as fans where we're happy, or at least content, as opposed to being completely disappointed with what's going on here. Ahead of NXT TakeOver in Your House, Triple H was a part of a media call where he discussed the current state and future of NXT. Triple H was asked about the lack of movement within the NXT roster to other brands, and while discussing it, he critiqued wrestling fans. He says, and I quote, and this was obviously asked by Meltzer. Meltzer asked a very logical question. Why is there such a difference between what we see in NXT when people get called up from NXT to the main roster, and why are they treated as nothing? Why are they buried? Why are they kept in catering? Why does Vince just give up on them within a few weeks' time? He obviously was asked this question, and he didn't like the vibe of the question. So in a very sassy tone, he gave quite the sarcastic answer to Dave Meltzer. He says, and I quote, "It's a funny thing to me sometimes that in our business, everybody is so worried about where people are going, where they're going to go, where they're going to land, and how is this going to play out long-term in the future. How about you just watch it? Says Triple H. Do you like it or do you not like it? Do you have to say, I like it, but I like this other thing more? Or I like it, but I don't like this as much as I like that other one? Just watch it or don't. And stop trying to figure out where everything goes. Then he goes on to note that fans often ruin their own stuff by overanalyzing the WWE product. What exactly are we overanalyzing? We're looking and we're watching and we're observing, and I don't think it's that far-fetched to think the fans are that stupid. People see and notice that Keith Lee hasn't been on television since February, and his status is being hidden by everybody in the company. We want to know why you put so much stock, money, resources, and effort into building Keith Lee by making him a dual champion. I don't know how many people before him have done that. 0? You put all your resources into one guy, and we all look at him as, oh my God, this guy's going to be the next big star on the main roster. Only for him to get called up to the main roster, and then he disappears for 6 months. Nobody knows if he's hurt. Nobody knows if he's sick, if he has an illness. Nobody knows if he's gone, really fired, and nobody mentioned anything. Nobody knows. So you're asking fans to just shut up and watch when this is clear to anybody watching your program. This is clear to anybody that gives a shit about what you're doing. I don't really get it. They overanalyze the product, he says. I quote, the fans ruin their own stuff half the time trying to figure out where everything goes and why it's going there and how and when and how and this and that, trying to pick up their phone, go and search for this thing online, find out what it is, what's happening, trying to ruin it for themselves so that they're not surprised when it does happen. I don't understand that. I'm thrilled with what the brand is. I'm happy with where it is. Do I want it to get better? Yes. Do I want it to grow? Yes. Do I want it to expand? Yes. But again, people will take this line, use it out of context. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I'm not here to make a brand that's around for a few years or a few minutes. I want it to be long-term. And that's how it's going to be, long-term. How is it going to be long-term? It's going to morph and evolve. It shouldn't be the same. If it's the same 3 years from now or 4 years from now as it is right now, we made a mistake. It's just that people, you grow. You're not the same person you were 4 years from now. If you are, you didn't grow. During the same press conference, Triple H went on about the women of WWE and the women of professional wrestling. In this same conference call, he was asked about the idea of another all-women's pay-per-view. He started out by saying the idea of equality isn't really equality. He said if WWE held an all-male pay-per-view, then he would be criticized. Then Triple H praised the women's division in NXT and the women's division in WWE and said another Evolution event is not a must-have situation. He also said that if people want to watch the best female wrestlers on the planet, then they are in WWE. If you are a female pro wrestler, you want to be around the best and you want to be in WWE. He says, and I quote, haven't we already done all women's shows? It's a funny thing to me. Equality is equality. Equality is not, I want my own show. Equality is not, we have to have our own program. If I told you that I was making an all-men's program and didn't want women on it, it would be criticized. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I think it's funny when people go, I want the best in the world regardless of contractual status. From a business standpoint, why do we have a contractual status? It doesn't make any sense. If you want to wrestle the best women in the world, then come to WWE. That's where they are. If you want to go elsewhere and say that they are, that's an opinion. And you can. I'm all for it. And one of the biggest drivers of it. Will we do another all-women's event down the line? Possibly. But it's not a must-have at the moment. I think we do an amazing job of displaying our female athletes. Is it perfect? No. Will it be in flux always? Yes. But we do a pretty good job. In my opinion, the best female performers in the world are in WWE, and if they are not, they want to be, end quote. So clearly people blasted him online about this. Thunder Rosa was clearly one of the first who is a huge advocate for women's wrestling. She runs Mission Pro Wrestling. She is the head of that promotion. She gives women opportunities whenever she can. She's a driving force in leading the AEW women's division to getting better. She works all over the place for the betterment of women's wrestling. She is highly respected in what she has done for women's wrestling. She took to social media, responding to what Triple H said, with a simple statement, and I quote, and this was great, because I knew this was coming, no matter if it was Thunder Rosa or somebody. The best female wrestlers are not located in one company, not even in one country. They are spread over many companies and many countries. Talented women across the globe, end quote. So she pretty much stated that all of the best women's wrestling is not subjected to NXT. Triple H has a great women's division, but it is very wrong of him to, I would say, pigeonhole himself into thinking that WWE is the end-all, be-all for women's wrestling. He knows that. I don't know why he went and said that, because we all know that he is a driving force for going out. Most of his, I would say 90% of his women's roster in NXT is outsourced from other promotions. So if Triple H thinks that the best women's division is in NXT, then he also thinks that that women's wrestling exists and is, out there in other promotions, because he's going to be the first one to go out there and grab somebody from an AEW or grab somebody from a Mission Pro Wrestling or grab somebody from Stardom. That he knows that they exist all over the world. He knows that women's wrestling is thriving all over the world, and that his comment about NXT and WWE having the best women's roster in the world is selfish. Because we all know that he's going to be the first guy in line to go grab somebody else to fill his roster that exists in another promotion. Really stupid fucking comments by Triple H yesterday. And this was to hype people up about NXT TakeOver in your house. And like I said, if that comment didn't come from Thunder Rosa, it would have come from somebody else. Now, this all stemmed. Why are we talking about an all-women's pay-per-view? This all stemmed from NWA announcing that Mickie James would be the executive producer of an upcoming all-women's pay-per-view in August entitled Empower. Pretty much a take on NWA Power. That's power with 3 R's at the end. Mickie James stated that she wanted women's wrestlers from all over the world to participate in this event regardless of contractual status. Now, while Thunder Rosa will no doubt be participating in this event, it's clear that Mickie James and the NWA are hoping to attract talent from All Elite Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor. She wants all of these promotions to come together to put a women's super show on for wrestling fans that they could remember for years to come. Clearly, WWE is not going to be participating in this event. I would be fucking floored if Triple H allows some of his talent to do that. Triple H and Vince, I believe, stopped Toni Storm from wrestling Bea Priestley over in Stardom while she was contracted to a WWE brand. She was in NXT UK at the time, I believe. She might have been on NXT in the United States. They put a stop to that because Bea Priestley at the time was an AEW superstar, and they didn't want Toni Storm, WWE superstar, in the ring with an AEW superstar in Stardom. That's how mental these people are. So if you think WWE is going to participate in this type of show, especially after the comments about Triple H saying, that doesn't mean equality, you got another thing coming, man. So they won't be participating in this, which led to Triple H's comments on the conference for TakeOver in Your House. Thunder Rosa obviously both works for AEW and NWA. And you got Britt Baker, Deonna Purrazzo out there. I believe they said something as well. Kind of snide remarks, snide little tweets yesterday in light of Triple H's comments. Proves Rosa's point that the best female wrestlers in the world are not located in just one company. Baker was a part of WWE. Not for long. I mean, she didn't really do much there. Deonna Purrazzo, WWE sat on her. They didn't really do anything as far as using her correctly. They suppressed her. She left. She got released. She went to Impact, immediately became the Impact Women's World Champion. So you don't need WWE to be successful. You don't. WWE is one of those companies that takes you, they employ you, they pay you, but if you don't fit a certain mold to what they're looking for, they won't use you. They take great pride in using you on their payroll, keeping you on their payroll, not using you, and then having you waste the best years of your life, the best years of your career, only for you to get sick enough to a point where you hate pro wrestling, you eventually ask for your release or they grant you your release, one way or the other. Then you go and be successful somewhere else. They feel like it always comes back around where those same people want to be back in the WWE. I think more people are now opening up their eyes to that and not doing that because they realize that I don't need WWE to make money. I don't need WWE to be successful. A lot of people, WWE has blinded a lot of people by believing that they are the end game. They blind a lot of people and suppress a lot of people mentally that they can't do it on their own. After this, it's over for you. Why would you tell that to anybody? Why would you tell people who are employed by your company that if you are gone from here, it's over? Do you know how damaging that is to one's inner self? Do you know how damaging that is to one's drive and perseverance and willingness to go out there and prove people wrong? You're going to leave defeated, and you're going to leave defeated for a long time. Some people don't recover from that. There are some people that take that, use that as fuel, and go on to prove them wrong, and that is the biggest. There's no contract in pro wrestling that is going to be bigger than that feeling. That's exactly what Deonna Purrazzo is feeling. She's happy. There's no contract in the world bigger than that. Thunder Rosa is all over the place. You think Thunder Rosa needs WWE after what she's done and accumulated for herself? They wanted to make her a fucking referee. They didn't even want her in the ring wrestling. She's doing it at 7 years veteran. She's been wrestling for 7 years, and she's one of the top female performers on the planet. And now she's the most influential in her circle on the indies, helping other women get opportunities, giving them chances where it might not be available right now. She cares. This is what drives her and her greatness in the industry. This is what makes her happy. If she was in WWE, who knows where she would be and where she would end up. She'd probably be fish food for Charlotte by now, several times over. She would have never been at this stage where she is right now. Triple H, his comments about women's wrestling is very blinded, very political. It's very one-sided. NXT or bust. But he knows that's not true because he's going to be the first guy to go out there and take somebody from an AEW. He's going to be the first guy to take somebody from a Mission Pro Wrestling or an NWA or a Ring of Honor. He's done it before. Not only with the female, with the men. How many of the men's roster? How much of NXT is Triple H going out and signing somebody that is from another company? Most of who you see, your favorite superstar right now has probably made a bigger name for himself somewhere else, and WWE picked him up just to keep him away from somebody else. His comments were blinded and one-sided, and they were very foolish. And I think he knows that. I think obviously it came from Meltzer, and he gave the most ridiculous, sarcastic, just sassy answer he could possibly give him because it was Dave Meltzer. Small part of me thinks if somebody asked that question besides Meltzer, it would have gotten a completely different response. He was hoping that that question wasn't brought up. Now, as far as his other comments, fans ruin everything for themselves because they don't want surprise. This is just another WWE typical political driven answer. When in doubt, when questioned, when having your back against the wall, just blame the fans. I don't really get where he's coming from as far as fans are ruining things because they go online and they want to know what's going on. Don't watch. If you don't like this, don't watch it. Fans are not stupid. I don't know why he's pretending that the fans are stupid. He's catering to the smartest of fucking wrestling fans, the smart marks, who watch NXT. The casual fucking buffoons who are watching Monday Night Raw, they don't know any better, and they don't give a shit. They don't care. Monday Night Raw is always going to have that prime audience, 1.5, 1.6 million people that tune in no matter what. They're losing fucking people because they're not gaining any new audience because the show sucks. But NXT has its core audience, and if you think that they are stupid to the point that your comments were made like that, I don't really believe Triple H believes himself. I honestly think it comes from a place of frustration. I want to believe that. I really do. But he didn't make himself really look like a good guy in this press conference. This answer was not the answer of somebody that we trust. Don't like it, don't watch. Fans are not stupid. They know and see the quality in NXT and how it's diminished over the last 4 years. He's saying if I stayed the same, then that doesn't mean we're evolving. No, you're getting worse. You're evolving, but going backwards. If NXT remained the same as it was when Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa were at the height of their career, and we were getting matches like that, and Ricochet and Black and Dream and Riddle, Cole, if you had that core NXT and producing shows like that, I don't think fans would be complaining. I don't think fans would be complaining if NXT was still on the network at 1 hour. You didn't evolve with the move to USA Network. You de-evolved. This has been a de-evolution of NXT. NXT is moving backwards because now you put NXT in a mainstream position on USA Network, and now it's being recognized as a third brand on par with Raw and SmackDown. A lot of people say that's evolving. I don't see that as evolving because Raw is moving backwards. They're getting worse week by week. If you want to be compared to Monday Night Raw, I don't really consider that evolving. You don't want NXT to be in a position like that. I don't understand that comment. We're not stupid. We see it. We feel it. We hear it. The departure of Mauro Ranallo killed NXT. The fact that NXT always has talent that we love at first. We all know that they're doomed for the main roster. So people are not watching NXT because your father-in-law takes what you created and kills it. How many times do I have to explain this to you? Triple H was looked at as a modern-day savior 4 years ago. With a reply like this, he's no better than Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. I don't really grasp what he's trying to do here. Fans ruin their own stuff half the time by trying to figure out where everything else goes and why it's going there and how it's doing this and how it's doing that, picking up their phone, using Twitter, using social media, so that they ruin it so it's not a surprise to them. Don't watch it, he says. It's like me going to a fucking restaurant, and it's a 5-star restaurant. I get this overhyped fucking meal because I was told to try it, right? And the chef is blaming me for not liking it. Shit sucks. You cooked a bad meal. Or the steak comes out, I ordered medium, and it comes back fucking well done. The chef would blame me. Oh, you don't like it? Don't eat it. He's blaming me for not liking the steak, but he cooked it wrong. That's what Triple H is pretty much doing. He's blaming the fucking fans. You can't sit there and blame the goddamn fans. We don't see the deterioration of Monday Night Raw. We don't have a right to question what's going on the main roster after you want us so desperately to care about NXT when the talent that you've created and tried to evolve, de-evolve on the main roster. We don't have a right to ask that question? That was one of the dumbest and most polarizing answers you could possibly give. That's not somebody that legitimately cares about NXT. That sounds like somebody who is saying what he needs to say to keep a position in the company to save his own ass. Because if he gets out of line and says anything that the fans really do feel, then his job or his job security, his position might be in jeopardy. I don't think Triple H believes his own shit. I hope to God he doesn't. There's a little part of me that wants to believe he said what he said just to toe the company line. But there's also a small part of me that also thinks that can't be what Triple H thinks. It's got to be eating him up alive to see Keith Lee, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor probably getting called up, ruined once again, Ricochet. He's probably lost sleep over Aleister Black being fired. The man never received a goddamn opportunity. It probably keeps him up at night talking to Stephanie how WWE could let Andrade at 31 years old, guys, a top 5 athlete in this business, top 5 world-renowned pro wrestler in this business at 31 years old, probably sits up at night talking to his wife about how and why. Why has all that Triple H done in NXT, I'd say 80 to 85% of it gets ruined by creative, by Vince, by Bruce. Why? We're not supposed to ask why? We're not supposed to question what's happening? Are you blaming us while also blaming those people? Sometimes they don't work out. That's not the way fans believe it. Fans don't believe that most of the people that come up from NXT just don't cut it on the main roster. They're supposed to. Why does NXT exist? What is this developmental process? Why does this PC exist? Why does NXT exist if they're not going to work out on the main roster? You've churned out gold. There's a reason why the last 3 or 4 years before all this bullshit, before the move to USA Network, there was a reason why NXT was praised as the thriving promotion, the #1 promotion in North America. It's because of how you handled everything that went into it. As soon as you moved to the USA Network, nobody gave a single shit anymore. It was almost as if you were forced to change the product. Something internally is going on there that even we as fans may not ever figure out or may not ever find the reason as to why it's so bad. But you can't ask fans to just shut up and watch it when we all see exactly what's going on. This is not a man being honest with himself. This is a man that's not being honest with the fans. It's not. I want to believe in Triple H. I really do. Vince McMahon's not going to be around forever. At one point, there's going to be somebody to step on in and hopefully clean up the fucking mess, if there still is a WWE at that point. I don't even know the way that they're going. Somebody's going to come on in and somebody's going to need to clean up this mess. Will it be Triple H? Will we see that old Triple H that we all put our trust in when that time comes? Because after yesterday and after these comments, this is not the opinion of somebody that I really trust in anymore. If he doesn't care, then how could he expect the fans to care? One of the worst responses I think he's ever given, one of the worst press conferences I think he's ever given since he started doing these takeover conference calls. Thank you guys for joining me in the second half of the podcast here, man. Once again, coming to you from the great state of Texas, Austin, Texas, to be exact. I'm here for today. I was here yesterday and today, and we're driving down to Temple tomorrow for a very good friend's wedding ceremony. Taking the Mustang down to Temple. Should be a nice drive. But I've enjoyed myself for the most part out here, man. The only thing that I wish was a little bit better was the craft beer scene. Not really much of a craft beer scene out here, man. A lot of local stuff, which some of it's been good. I visited a few breweries yesterday, and I came across one, and it was a peanut butter and jelly stout that had hints of blackberry in it. So good. Forgot the name of the brewery, but it was unbelievable. Probably the best thing that I've had so far, but there's a lot of IPAs. There's a lot of American ales. Not really my type of jam, really. But I'm not really a big fan of the summer season as far as craft beer anyway. In fact, I think it's the worst season to drink craft beer. Fall and winter, obviously, are the best, and then you got your spring and then summer coming in last. That's the way I rank it. But, you know, I've been out here for the last couple of days. I like it. I wish I could spend more time out here. Definitely my type of scene. But we'll be heading to Temple, Texas tomorrow, and you are getting the podcast recorded in Texas, which, I mean, you guys got the beautiful backdrop of the venue, so it is what it is, man. But I thank you guys anyway for joining me on the second half. Once again, sponsored by Dr. Squatch. That is drsquatch.com. Use code SCRIPT at checkout for 20% off. #1 in men's hygiene. Take it with me in situations like this. I use it every single day at home. So make sure you guys go and get your Dr. Squatch. And plus, like I said earlier, Father's Day is coming up. It makes an absolutely incredible Father's Day gift. Soaps, deodorants, cologne, shampoo, conditioner, shaving stuff, you name it, man. They got everything, every base covered. No question. So that's drsquatch.com. Use code SCRIPT at checkout to save 20% off. SmackDown rating. Viewership dips. I'm not surprised when you do nothing but Roman Reigns and the Usos on SmackDown and then leave everybody else fiending for more than just that. You know, it's not really a good look as far as presentation to the fans watching at home. It comes off as if these guys are the only important part of the show, and then everybody else wants to see everybody else. Fans want to see a Nakamura, and they want to see a Gable, and they want to see the Prophets, and they want to see this, and they want to see that. Storylines with as much effort as you're giving Roman Reigns, and they don't get it. No wonder viewership dips. WWE has made it seem like Roman Reigns and the Usos are the only thing on SmackDown, and then that everything else pretty much doesn't exist. I've been saying this for the last couple of live streams. They got a serious problem on SmackDown. 75% of that roster is not even being used. It's not. How can anyone care? Why would anybody watch when all you do is tell everybody, hey, this is the only thing that matters, and we're going to put as much effort into this, and then not any effort into anything else? It's awful. So viewership dipped on Friday night. I'm not surprised. The PW Torch is reporting that SmackDown averaged 1.883 in the viewership on Fox, which was down from the previous week that the show did. And the 18 to 49 demographic, the show did a 0.50 rating. That is the same rating that the show did in the previous week. Now, it did have the NBA and the NHL playoff games to go up against, which, I mean, I'm not really using these things as excuses. I'm not. They are excuses for a little of the hit in the demo, but it's not really the main excuse. Why is anything down? Oh, let's blame the NBA playoffs. Why is Raw down? Let's blame Memorial Day. No. Now, that is a WWE elitist answer. That is a WWE shill-like answer. The ratings are down because the show sucks. The NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs, you know, they barely made a dent in the ratings. The ratings seem to be exactly where they need to be. Those things, if they were all so big, it would have been an even bigger dent in the ratings, but they're not. So the dip means people are losing interest in what you're currently producing. That's the fucking dip. The show featured the Mysterios. Booyaka, booyaka. Rey and Dominic Mysterio defending their tag team championships against Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, the Usos and the Street Profits. I did not get the ratings for this week. Everything seems to be delayed because Showbuzz Daily, you guys are wondering why I'm doing the 6.4 rating for SmackDown. The ratings for the shows are not out because Showbuzz Daily, there seems to be a glitch with their website. So it's late for everybody to get the rumors and the news and the ratings and all that stuff coming out of those Friday night shows and AEW and NXT. So they're not really going to be up to date as they used to be, which it actually may lead me to cut this segment out of the show completely and just talk about the rumors and news coming out of those shows. So the ratings, I mean, does anybody really care about the ratings anymore? Everybody's still making a big deal about the ratings. I only do it because it's news. I don't care one way or the other. It's not affecting me in any way. Some of these geeks online, they lose sleep over AEW not getting the typical rating that they need to get, or people are defending AEW. People are wanting AEW to die. People thinking that AEW is going to die with their ratings dip on Friday night. I'll get into that rant in a little bit. But SmackDown has been down. SmackDown has been down, and it's not difficult to see why. There's been a push in WWE about bringing Aleister Black back to the company. He was released last week alongside Braun Strowman, Buddy Murphy, Lana, Ruby Riott, and Santana Garrett. Now, Strowman, everybody thinks that he is the most surprising cut. He may very well be. But I think everybody, and the cut that everybody is resonating with the most is Aleister Black because it's just ridiculous. The guy never got a fucking opportunity on the main roster. So now he's a free agent after 90 days, August 31st to be exact. He's already talking about having people hit him up. His merchandise sales are on fire. He's going to do the thing that he needs to do. And obviously, if you guys watched my SmackDown coverage, my AEW coverage, we talked about Black and AEW and discussion already taking place there. Seemingly, he knows where he's already going to land. Strowman was the most surprising cut to the casuals. Black, I think, to the hardcore fans, was the more surprising of the cut. PWInsider.com reports that there is a certain corner of the company, meaning certain people in the company, there has been talk that Aleister Black was cut prematurely and that a push is being made to bring him back. Now, as it stands right now, there's no word yet on whether this will actually happen. It was added that there's been a feeling that of everyone, Black was cut too soon and was more likely the victim of broken promises and start-stop creative more than anything that he did on his own. Well, if you ask Booker T, who pretty much shilled WWE in his response to why Aleister Black didn't make it, and Booker T came off like a fucking clown, a foolish one at that, saying that Aleister Black didn't do much of anything to set himself apart from anybody else on the roster. That's when he looks at Aleister Black, he doesn't see talent. How could you see talent when most of the fans watching the show didn't see the fucking talent that Aleister Black had? I don't get it. He didn't do anything to set himself apart. How the fuck do you know, Booker? Were you there in the creative meetings? Were you there to listen to this guy pitch and pitch and pitch and make cases for himself to be on TV, only to be shot down every single time? How do you know what he did and didn't do when this is all WWE's fault? Creative's fault. But Booker T has the answers to everything. He knows everything. But he made himself look like a complete idiot on something that he did obviously no research on someone that he has no clue about. That's why I went so hard on him last week. Deservedly so. Yet you got geeks coming at me. Oh, well, how could you be making fun of somebody like Booker T? He's a Hall of Famer. He knows more than you. No, we don't. He may be in the business, but he pretty much shilled himself to a point where he made himself out to be the dumbest guy in the industry. With somebody who just got released that everybody wanted to see get a fucking chance that he never got. Now, WWE, I don't know whether they want to bring this guy back or not. He's under a 90-day non-compete. I do think that it's going to end up with Strowman coming back. I don't think he ends up in Impact or Ring of Honor or New Japan. Or if I'm Tony Khan, I'm certainly not signing Braun Strowman. You know, I'm not bringing him in. He's a fucking complete waste. He didn't do anything in WWE. What is he going to do on AEW television? You really want to make yourself feel like WWE light, then bring in Braun Strowman. That's not the vibe you want. But I do think that WWE is going to reevaluate, sign him at a shorter deal, because he's going to eventually realize that there's no other place that he wants to be. Number one, he's a lifer. Number two, that's how dumb he is. Number two, he's not going to make it. He's not going to cut it on the indies. He's going to have a very short shelf life on the indies as Braun Strowman. I could see them bringing him back on a short-term basis, a smaller contract of sorts. Black, August 31st, and he's gone. August 31st, and Tommy End's going to be in AEW. Simple. He's already got bookings. November 13th, East Elmhurst, New York, from LaGuardia Airport at the Marriott. They got that big event. It's like a big autograph signing, meet and greet, all that stuff. He's already got signings. He's already got dates lined up for him. Merchandise is on fire from what people in the OTS community are telling me. I don't think WWE is going to bring him back. There may be people that are claiming that they want to bring him back, but I don't think he comes back. Who knows if they're using his wife as leverage? We don't know. Does Black want to come back? If I'm him, I'm looking at all this great stuff happening. I'm looking at all these great things happening, and I'm saying to myself, why do I need WWE? WWE already did their part. They gave me my platform. They've given me everything that is now coming my way. I thank them for that. Sorry, but no thank you. If I'm Aleister Black and all the bullshit that they gave him, I'd be giving them the finger, telling them to kiss my ass 1,000 times over. You can watch me on Wednesday nights when I move to TNT. And I show you and everybody else exactly what you missed out on. Now, I went in on Aleister Black as well. I don't really think that he made himself look good with all the stupid fucking comments he projected at people on Twitch when he was cut. Vince McMahon was a big fan of me. If he was a big fan of you, then you'd still be on the payroll. If he was a big fan of you, you wouldn't have sat in a fucking closet for 7 months, only to be taken off TV again and then given an eye patch to look like fucking Jack Sparrow. And you would have been on TV. If he was a big fan of you, Titus O'Neil and Dana Brooke wouldn't have been drafted ahead of you in last year's draft. Vince McMahon was not a fan of you. What Vince McMahon is a fan of is killing everything Triple H has put a lot of time and effort into. Because it's better than what he could do. Triple H is in the market to create stars and characters. Vince McMahon is in the market to kill them. If they don't fit his narrative, if they don't fit his mindset of one, then they're finished. Vince McMahon was not a big fan of Aleister Black. No matter how many times he wants to shill Bruce Pritchard and praise the creative team, they're all to blame. They're all to blame. Now, some people are looking at that as him trying to hang on. Maybe they do bring him back and maybe he wants to come back. Maybe his wife is still with the company and he's towing the company line just for her sake. We don't know none of those things. But because we don't know, it makes him look like an idiot. Just go to AEW and make everybody eat their own shit. Seriously. There's so much for him to do over there. There's so much for him to do anywhere. Why would you want to go back to a place where they clearly did not want you or appreciate you in the first run? What makes you think things are going to be different now? They had to fire you to realize, or they had to fire you for them to realize that, oh man, we let somebody go that we shouldn't let go. If you were so good and they were so high on you, they would have realized that as soon as they brought you up from NXT. Give me a break. Don't make a dumb fucking decision. Just go where you need to go and make them eat their own shit. It's exactly what I would do. It's the best form of revenge possible. That's the greatest driver of perseverance. It's the greatest drive in a human being possible. To show others exactly what you missed out on. That's what he needs to do. WWE creator, speaking about Aleister Black, I mentioned this in an extra during the week. They got no plans for Big E after Aleister Black's release. Now, I highly doubt this. I think Big E and The New Day are fan favorites. Not only fan favorites, but favorites of management. So if Big E's off television now, I do think that WWE is contemplating plans on how to bring him back to television, but that was their own fault. You got no plans for Big E because you let Aleister Black go, who he was about to feud with, and now Big E's got no fucking plans. I already told you what you should be doing with Big E going into SummerSlam, and that means Seth Rollins. Big E versus Seth Rollins is a match that I'd be very interested in seeing. I think it plays into the Seth Rollins character. I think it plays into Big E doing his own thing. He wants to get back to the top. He wants to show everybody that he's world championship material. Can't be world champion material without beating former world champions. Let's do it. Who else is he going to feud with? Clearly, he's not ready for Roman Reigns. I don't think anybody's ready for Roman Reigns. So what are you going to do with Big E? There's nobody else on that roster for Big E at SummerSlam that is going to mean shit. Seth Rollins is the guy. Ringside News has asked about this situation with Big E not being used on SmackDown in the last few weeks. There were some natural worries within the company and within the fan base about Big E and his status after Black was released. They were told that the decision was already made by Vince McMahon to axe Aleister Black. Oh, yeah, he was such a big fan of Aleister Black. He axed him in the middle of a fucking program with Big E. How big of a fan could Vince McMahon be of Aleister Black? Bullshit. Just very laughable. McMahon didn't want to follow up on that storyline because he knew Black was being released. Additionally, Ringside News was told that Vince McMahon hadn't signed off on Big E's next feud yet. That is the reason why the New Day member was off TV. That has nothing to do with his job being at risk. He's not being fired. He's not going to be included in the next round of cuts. He simply didn't have anyone to feud with, and Vince McMahon didn't sign off on it. But that's what Vince McMahon does. He makes everything into just unimportant shit on the main roster. Big E and Aleister Black were in a program. Aleister Black cost Big E the Intercontinental Championship. He saved Apollo Crews from losing the championship to feud with Big E. he picked a fight with Big E. Is any of that going to be mentioned on TV? No, you wasted people's time watching that program and getting excited about a future program that no longer is happening, with a caveat to an ending of a match that now is lost in the annals of fucking time, never to be seen or heard of or recognized again. That's what they do. They don't give a shit. That's why I said about Triple H, if they don't care, why are fans going to care? Why are the ratings on SmackDown on Fox down? Because of WWE's attitude and mentality when it comes to this type of shit. Additionally, Big E's next feud possibly will be heading towards SummerSlam. I said Seth Rollins. I don't know who else on SmackDown's roster is really capable of giving Big E a solid mid-card feud. Aleister Black was a victim of WWE's ever-changing plans. It's a common issue in WWE. Plans change, he said. Clearly, you were fired. Big E will be fine. I do think that he will be placed on WWE's priority list because God help us all. If the fans catch wind of WWE not using Big E, forget about it, man. They'll never hear the end of it. NXT's ratings for the go-home show. Takeover in your house. 669,000 live viewers. That is up from 668,000 live viewers the show did a week ago. This is according to PW Torch and Wade Keller. 0.2 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic. That is a little bit higher. That is a little percentage higher from the 0.19 the show did a week ago. This was the go-home show for Takeover in your house on Sunday, which I will be live for on YouTube. All pro wrestling companies continue to be impacted by quote-unquote NBA and NHL playoff competition, says Wade Keller. This episode featured Killian Dane versus Isaiah Swerve Scott, Oney Lorcan versus Austin Theory, Ember Moon versus Dakota Kai, Io Shirai coming back, possibly teasing a rematch with Raquel Gonzalez after she's done with Ember Moon. Poppy was on the show, and we got a big breakdown towards the end with Karrion Kross, Kyle O'Reilly, Pete Dunne, Johnny Gargano, and Adam Cole Bay, which is the main event of Takeover in your house, Fatal 5-Way for the NXT Championship. One way or another, we're going to figure out what's happening with Adam Cole and Karrion Kross, who stays, who goes, who stays to find NXT and home, who goes to the main roster to get buried. It's going to be a very interesting situation. Plans for Takeover's next special. You guys are probably wondering, well, if they're putting so much effort into SummerSlam at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, what are they doing with Takeover? Is Takeover going to be in Las Vegas as well? Well, WWE's got news on the next Takeover special, and this was coming from Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast. He noted on his show this week that Sunday could be NXT TakeOver, and it may be emanating from Orlando, Florida, and the Capitol Wrestling Center. So there will be a TakeOver special that SummerSlam weekend. We may be getting SummerSlam on Saturday, and TakeOver might be in the headline Sunday night spot. So that's the plan right now. The event would be held on a Sunday in Orlando, Florida at the Capitol Wrestling Center. It was added that the show being held at the CWC gives the company flexibility if they opt to move it outside of the Capitol Wrestling Center. It should be noted that WWE reportedly wants to resume also live NXT touring for its house shows beginning in July. Obviously, that's after the main roster gets on the road first, and then NXT will soon thereafter follow. I like it. I like the idea. I don't like the idea of it being in the Capitol Wrestling Center. We are getting things back to normal. If SummerSlam is emanating from Las Vegas, TakeOver should be emanating from a smaller venue where they can operate with full capacity. Enough of these shows taking place in the Capitol Wrestling Center. If there's one brand, AEW has suffered as well. I'm not leaving them out of it. If there's one brand that suffered the most as far as pandemic and losing interest and the show feeling flat, it's NXT. And those takeovers don't really feel like takeovers anymore. This upcoming show Sunday doesn't feel like a takeover. Just because WWE, the way that they book it, they book everything like a Monday Night Raw. They book on a week-to-week basis. There's no long-term vision for NXT anymore, which we all loved and appreciated back in the old NXT. But Triple H thinks that they're evolving. They're not. They're de-evolving. WWE needs to move these takeovers out of the Capitol Wrestling Center. They don't feel like takeovers in the same venue in which your TV tapings take place in. You need to branch out and do what you did to make these shows feel special. And the first thing is to move them outside of the TV taping arena. Otherwise, it's not a takeover. And I also mentioned on my NXT podcast, which you guys can watch on Tuesday on YouTube every single week. And if you guys go back and watch this past week's show, they need to start doing things to aesthetically make the venue feel like Full Sail University again. Liveliness. They need to allow more people in the venue. They need to take the fucking masks off. They need to get rid of those barricades and the fences around ringside. It's not a good vibe. That's the pandemic vibe. I thought we're all moving on from this. But NXT still seems to be operating behind the 8 ball. Why is the show down? Why is there no interest in the show? Well, it seems to me like you're doing nothing to make the show better and give it that life that it once had. They need to move these takeovers out of the Capitol Wrestling Center. I don't give a fuck who you are. Stop making the CWC look like a pay-per-view venue. It's not. You need to have these shows take place in an actual venue outside of Florida. Or if you want to remain in Florida, move out of the fucking CWC. It's not a good vibe, and it's not takeover. I mentioned before, earlier in the show, Vince McMahon is actually looking for NXT call-ups. And as far as what he's looking for characters. He's looking for personalities. He's not looking for wrestlers. I don't know what Triple H is doing down there because 75% of the roster is pro wrestlers. How many characters are existing right now on NXT television? How many? Santos Escobar is a great pro wrestler. Is he going to be looked at by Vince McMahon? I don't know. They got a great backstory. If WWE wants to reevaluate that and tell their story, those guys could thrive on the main roster. They are all fantastic wrestlers. Raul Mendoza, Joaquin Wilde, and Santos Escobar are 3 of the best talents that they have on that roster. So who else is a character on that show? Tommaso Ciampa, pro wrestler. Timothy Thatcher, I'm just basing off who we see on television every single week. Grizzled young veterans, they're pro wrestlers. They're not really characters. MSK, they're pro wrestlers. Imperium, I mean, just look at the fucking group and what they stand for. They're pro wrestlers. Who exactly is the character on NXT? Dexter Lumis? What have they done with him? They seem to be humanizing him more than developing his character. So what exactly is Vince McMahon looking for when he looks for NXT superstars? Characters. Who's a character? This may be why we got Rick Boogs called up to SmackDown. He was one of the only few characters that they had in NXT. Primarily, they didn't really do much with him in NXT. I wish they would have. But that may be the reason why he got called up. Who exactly on NXT is a personality or a character? Personality, character, 2 different things. You can have a personality, but you can't have a character. A lot of guys have personalities, but don't have characters. Hit Row? You're going to call them up already on the main roster? They all got personalities. They all got some type of character. Swerve as a character. Johnny Gargano? Karrion Kross? See, I guess he's a personality. I wouldn't say he's a character. What kind of character is Karrion Kross? Kyle O'Reilly, Pete Dunne, Bobby Fish, Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole. NXT is churning out pro wrestlers. Seems like they deviated away from characters. Velveteen Dream was a character. Where is he now? So if Vince McMahon is looking for characters, it may be a needle in a haystack right now as far as what he's looking for on NXT. Or maybe he'll just tell NXT and Triple H to start doing a better job. Maybe he may get more involved if he wants to start looking at NXT and replenishing the main roster and adding to the main roster to fill the gaps of all those now vacant payroll spots. This may lead to Vince McMahon getting more involved. You need to start churning out more characters. I got to be more hands-on to see what you're doing here so that characters are developed. This might not be a good thing. All this means to me is Vince McMahon wants to get more involved without actually saying he's going to get more involved, which we all kind of feel now anyway because of the deterioration of NXT on Tuesday night. Feels like Monday Night Raw light on Tuesday night. But Triple H says that they're evolving. They are not. Then he wants to blame the fans for being upset and frustrated. We have every right to be because your show sucks. You're not doing an adequate enough job to present professional wrestling the way that we want. But it's our fault. Like, we booked the fucking show. Vince McMahon, this is according to Ringside News. Many reports have come out like this. Ringside News is not the only one. Fightful has reported this. Meltzer's reported this. McMahon's looking for personalities and not pro wrestlers. The report states that the question McMahon always asks is, what's the character? But also, if the character is very real or if the character is outlandish, it doesn't matter. But that's what he is interested in. Now, the most recent call-up, like I mentioned, is Rick Boogs, formerly Eric Bugenhagen. He was brought up to SmackDown, paired with Shinsuke Nakamura as of a few weeks ago, and I would only assume that this is a Vince McMahon initiative because he's a character. He's a heavy metal, guitar-playing fucking goofball. That's his character. Why they paired him with Nakamura, I don't expect Bruce to fill us in on that pairing. How did that come about? I'm still waiting on that. But that's the primary reason why Boogs is on the main roster when we all know that he should be ingrained in what NXT is doing. There's also been reports of NXT UK's Piper Niven debuting on Raw alongside Eva Marie, which could happen in a matter of days, being that Eva Marie is wrestling on Monday night. A disaster is looming, folks. I can't wait. I'm expecting a major audience for me to shit on Eva Marie all over her performance on Monday night. Matter of days, we'll see Eva Marie's disaster on Monday Night Raw. We may see a new heavy, a new bodyguard for Eva Marie soon. Piper Niven was rumored. Mercedes Martinez was ruined. Yeah, they did ruin her. Once before, they want to ruin her again by pairing her with Eva Marie. So we may see that. Those two names are rumored for Eva Marie. Theoretically, McMahon is supposed to give Triple H a 6-month warning before he takes people from NXT's roster, but he's also Vince McMahon. How often does that happen? Remember when he was pulling Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa and Ricochet and Aleister Black from NXT? He gave Triple H not even 24 hours of a warning. 6 months. Fuck out of here. Vince McMahon does everything in Vince McMahon's time, on Vince McMahon's clock. Sometimes he doesn't even let Triple H know what he's going to do. He just does it. Yeah, but Triple H says NXT's evolving, right? The fans shouldn't be frustrated with what's going on, according to NXT and main roster and how people are moved back and forth and then ultimately ruined on the main roster. And we're not supposed to care about that, though, right? Give me a break. People have more resources and more opportunities to know what's going on than ever before, but we're not supposed to be upset. Don't believe everything you read. It's the fans' fault. Dynamite. Apparently, people are up in arms, throwing celebrations in the fucking street for Dynamite's rating on Friday night. 462,000 for Friday's episode, which featured Andrade El Idolo debuting on Dynamite. This is down from the 526,000 viewers the show drew the previous week. In the 18 to 49 demographic, the show did a 0.19. That is down from the previous week of 0.20. Dynamite has been on Friday night and will be for the majority of June. They will not be back on Wednesday night until July. So Dynamite was moved to Friday night, 10 p.m. start time to 12 midnight. TNT's coverage of the NBA playoffs is the reason. Last week's show set a record for the lowest viewership that an episode of Dynamite had ever done. And obviously, the most recent episode is the new low. So this week, people were celebrating the potential death of AEW because of a 462,000 viewer rating on Friday night. Now, this was the fallout episode from Double or Nothing, the first show after Double or Nothing. Unfortunately, AEW, like I said, will continue to be preempted due to the NBA for the rest of the month. This episode featured Andrade's debut, Dustin Rhodes versus Nick Comoroto in a bull rope match in the main event. Also featured Pac and Pentagon versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I mean, just look at the main event and you can figure out why AEW is not really taking this serious on a Friday night. They're giving you some newsworthy moments, but if your Dynamite is headed by Nick Comoroto of the Nightmare Factory against Dustin Rhodes of the Nightmare Family, I mean, what does that tell you about how AEW views these shows themselves? That's a main event for Dynamite? That's a main event for a Friday Night Dynamite that they know nobody's going to watch. People are celebrating the death of AEW. What exactly are you celebrating? What do you expect them to do? You expect them to generate 1 million rating on a Friday night in the middle of the summer from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock? Who's watching pro wrestling at 11 p.m. on a Friday night? If you're a young adolescent youth, if you're in that 18 to 34 demographic, 18 to 49 demographic, wouldn't you much rather be out on a Friday night after a long week of work? Why do you want to be home watching pro wrestling? And nobody really knows that Dynamite is on Friday night. How often have they pushed it? They didn't really push it like WWE jams an agenda down your throat. They just put it out there. If you're going to watch, watch. If you don't watch, DVR it, watch it when you can. It's not that big of a deal. Now you know why they're moving to TBS. I don't get why people are so up in arms about this. Celebrating the death of AEW. Tony Khan and AEW are dying. Okay, great. This is not being, directly opposed by NBA on the same night in which you are set to air. They specifically have moved AEW to Friday night and put them on 2 hours later than people are used to seeing them on. No matter if there's an NBA lead-in or not. People are out at the bar watching the game. People are watching the game at home and then go out to the bar. Nobody's staying home to watch AEW. Give me a break. AEW will be fine when they move back to Wednesday night. It's not really a good thing that they've been off Wednesday nights for the entire month, but they will bounce back. The majority of the people who watch AEW on a weekly basis, some of them watch, clearly, and most of them just watch when they can on DVR, or they go back on demand and watch AEW Dynamite. It's not that big of a deal. AEW is not going anywhere. Give me a break with the death of AEW bullshit that's spread on social media. I don't get it. Nobody is watching pro wrestling on Friday night, which doesn't really set a good example for Rampage. I wonder how Rampage is going to do following SmackDown. We'll see what happens with that. Rampage is supposed to debut August 13th, I believe, at 10 p.m. on TNT. It's only going to be 1 hour, but I mean, if this is any indication about the viewership on Friday night at 10 o'clock, doesn't really bode well for AEW. We'll see what happens. Monday Night Raw viewership slightly rebounds after setting a new low for 2021. Slightly rebounds. I love how these people just word their titles. Slightly rebounds. PW Torch is noting that the Monday Night Raw episode on Monday drew an average of 1.64. That is on the USA Network. That is up from 1.621. Ooh. Wow. Such a rebound there, Wade Keller. Show did have to go up against the NBA and NHL playoff games. Monday Night Raw is just genuinely terrible. The NHL and NBA playoff games have no say on the Monday Night Raw ratings whatsoever. None. How many times have we been in this discussion with WWE and the NBA, WWE and the NFL, WWE and Memorial Day, WWE and Groundhog's Day, Valentine's Day, whatever fucking day you want to come up with? Your mother made me lasagna and then blew me day. Doesn't matter. Give me a break. WWE's product is deteriorating. Go look at the average NBA rating year over year over year over year. They're probably down themselves. But look at WWE's year over year over year over year rating. Like I mentioned, how many fucking Memorial Days have we seen before this year's Memorial Day? Everybody's like, oh, it's Memorial Day. WWE's down because it's the holiday. Go look at 5 Memorial Days ago and tell me what the Raw rating was and then compare it to this year's Memorial Day Raw. Where did all those people go? Is it Memorial Day, or is it the fact that WWE sucks? Which one is it? Stop defending garbage. You make yourself look like a blithering idiot when you do so. So they were up. Oh boy, a percentage point up. Great. Monday Night Raw is trending in the right direction now. They're going to get better. Nothing will save this show. And if the rumored Mahal and McIntyre feud is any indication, they may see 1-4 ratings in the near future. Last week's show set a new low in viewership, second lowest in the history of Monday Night Raw. 29 years being on the show, and in 2021, the product is at the worst it's ever been. The 18 to 49 demo saw an average of a 0.48. That is up from a 0.44. The hourly breakdown is as follows: 1.66, 1.65, and 1.60. This episode featured one of the worst Raw endings of all time when Shayna Baszler was being chased around by Lily the Doll. She was on Alexa's playground, and WWE had Shayna Baszler run in terror from Lily the Doll that was chasing her. I got fucking geeks online. Well, Shayna Baszler's acting was exquisite in this segment. Give me a break. Those people make me feel like I'm the dumbest podcaster in the community. Really. They make me feel dumb every time I read their comments. I'm like, I don't believe I read this. I feel dumber for doing so. I really do. Ooh. Imagine somebody coming on live air on YouTube explaining, oh, I don't get what people are complaining about. Shayna Baszler's acting was exquisite. She owned the role. That's great. Shayna Baszler's 420-day reign as NXT champion, the most dominant NXT champion not named Asuka, the legit badass that she is being chased around and running in fear of a fucking puppet. But I'm supposed to sit here and praise her acting work. Does nobody realize that they're creatively ruining Shayna Baszler? Give me a break with your stupidity. It's the worst fucking ending of the modern era. And I wish that they go and do this in front of fans. Because at that point, then maybe they learn their lesson. Because there's no fucking right fan with a functioning brain properly that's going to watch this live in a venue after paying their good money to see Shayna Baszler running around with a doll and cheer it. WWE has a rude awakening. And I'm not talking about Rick Rude. A rude awakening coming to them if they even attempt or dare to do this in front of a live audience. Done. Your bubble is no longer safe. At some point, you're going to have to step outside that bubble and embrace the live audience. And if this is any indication about the product that you're going to be producing when fans get back in attendance, you're in some deep shit. If you guys want to listen to my full rant about everything here regarding this ending, it's legitimately the first 25 minutes of the Monday Night Raw show on the homepage. Go and check it out. Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre took part in a contract signing for their WWE title match inside Hell in a Cell. 5-team battle royal that featured RK Bro, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, New Day, Mason T-Bar, Lucha House Party, which was only Lindsay Dorado because Grand Metalik was hurt. So it was the, what do you want to say? It's just Lindsay Dorado. There's no Lucha House Party. Party means double. There was no party on this evening. They're on Monday Night Raw. What type of party happens on Monday night? One that you fall asleep at 8:30 p.m. And then the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar, they had this battle royal to decide a number one contender against AJ Styles and Omos at Hell in a Cell. They made a good decision. The Viking Raiders won this thing. Seems like they're waiting on Orton and Riddle for SummerSlam, which is the right call. Surprised Bruce had the right mind after watching D-level horror movie films to get inspiration with Shayna Baszler and Lily to make a right creative decision. Awesome. More Rhea Ripley and Charlotte shit. Asuka and Charlotte were in the ring again on Monday night, man. What a fucking entertaining, what a creative show they put on. Awful. Absolutely disgusting was Monday Night Raw. Legitimately one of the worst episodes of the entire year. So much so I'm not even going to break it down. I don't give a fuck. Jimmy Smith. How do you guys like Jimmy Smith on Monday Night Raw? former MMA, Bellator commentator. He criticized Adnan Virk and his lack of energy on Monday night while he had the position for 8 weeks. Jimmy Smith made a name for himself, like I said, play-by-play commentator on Bellator. Seems like his skills transferred pretty decently so far, I must say, into his role as play-by-play guy on Monday Night Raw. I give him about the same time as Adnan, and Vince McMahon will be screaming in his ear too, where he's going to need a bigger boat and going to want to sail away from Monday Night Raw as fast as he can. Smith made his debut on this week's Monday Night Raw, actually last week, not this week. This is his second week on Monday Night Raw as play-by-play guy. He replaced Adnan Virk, while Virk would be criticized regularly for the 7 weeks, 8 weeks he was there. That is not the case for Jimmy Smith, as fans have embraced his work so far. In fact, his work has been so well received that people in WWE consider him a natural fit on Monday Night Raw. While speaking on Busted Open, Jimmy Smith talked about Adnan Virk as a commentator in the 7 weeks he was on Raw. Smith stated that he had to turn up the volume whenever Virk was speaking. What does that mean? Jimmy Smith says this, and I quote, "I'm going to be totally honest with you. When I was watching Adnan Virk last time, I had to turn the volume up. I had to literally turn it up, and then Corey Graves and Byron Saxton, I had to turn it down because I couldn't hear Adnan, and I had to turn it up. And when Corey and Byron brought energy, it blasted my TV, and I had to keep turning it up and down. I was like, that shouldn't be happening." End quote. I don't know, man. You know, Jimmy Smith, all I will say is this. Adnan sucked. I think everybody knows Adnan sucked, okay? They didn't allow Adnan to get much in because they knew how terrible he was, and it just wasn't working out. As far as I'm concerned, Corey Graves was the play-by-play lead, and Byron Saxton was his color. Adnan was just there. But he needs to be careful about what he says because he may be in this same bigger boat than Adnan, you know? He may be in a bigger boat than Adnan. He may be in the same boat, if not bigger than Adnan. You better be careful about what he's saying because after 8 weeks, he may be in the same position that Adnan Virk was in. You should not be criticizing the guy that they fired to bring you on in because everybody's saying nice things about you now. It doesn't mean they're going to be continuing those nice things 2, 3, 4 months from now. When you get WWE-ized and you get Vince McMahon screaming all this WWE rhetoric in your ear and you got to shill this and shill that and come off as an obnoxious fucking idiot on Monday Night Raw, I want to see how everybody takes to you then. Right now, you're just a fresh voice after a terrible voice that we got for 7 weeks. Be careful what you say. Adnan's gone. There's no reason to mention Adnan ever again. It was a failed experiment by somebody in Nick Khan by putting him in there who doesn't know jack shit about anything. He's busy buying $7 million fucking posh mansions in the Caribbean somewhere. Yet he thinks this guy was needed on Monday Night Raw. Of all the fucking things on this show, that's the one thing you needed to change. Be careful what you say because you're going to be in the same position eventually. And I guarantee that. Just be careful what you do and what you say. Backstage news on 2 Raw stars, Jackson Ryker and Elias. I know. Go grab your pillows, folks. This is awful. Last week, Elias walked out on Jackson Ryker on a Memorial Day episode of Raw, which was in a match against AJ Styles and Omos. They worked a singles match on Raw this week, which I'm assuming put everybody to fucking sleep. You might not even realize that, but this actually happened. Yet I'm supposed to sit here and review Monday Night Raw every week with a smile on my face, man. Exquisite. Such a great show, man. They're trending in the right direction. Nobody asked for Jackson Ryker and Elias feud. Give me a break. They worked a singles match, ended in a countout. Elias left and walked away from Jackson Ryker. Now, there's been some confusion as to why Elias and Ryker are possibly switching roles here. Up until this point, both stars have been heels. PW Insider and Mike Johnson are reporting that the current plans call for Ryker to be a babyface while Elias remains a heel. Clearly, this feud will also be continuing. Great. And they want to know why people aren't watching Monday Night Raw. How can anyone legitimately fucking care about Jackson Ryker? Can you imagine Jackson Ryker still being employed while getting rid of Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler? Can you imagine that? Of all 3 guys, Jackson Ryker was the one guy that had his life and his job spared from WWE. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How soon before we get the American hero coming out and Jackson Ryker going to challenge Sheamus as a babyface, winning the United States Championship? I don't see how good Gunner was in TNA. Why are we reliving this guy's glory days in WWE when those days in TNA were pretty much irrelevant? Did anybody give a fuck then? Why would we care now? And Elias, this guy's just like Braun. I'm surprised Elias hasn't been released, man. This guy is 3 years past his peak. He is a dead act. Eric Bugenhagen, Rick Boogs, is everything that Elias should be, but a lot cooler. Much, much cooler. And a much better guitar player. Elias didn't give many comments after the show in a video on WWE's YouTube channel while Ryker retweeted a message from a fan who wrote this, and I quote, this guy, these types of fans, man, it's like a comedy show. Look at this tweet. A fan to Jackson Ryker. It makes me cringe and laugh at the same time. And I quote, this is the Jackson Ryker I've been waiting for with the same ruthless attitude that TNA Gunner gave us and I missed. Hashtag Impact Wrestling. Hashtag Monday Night Raw. Wow, man. That guy may be the only guy in the IWC excited about a Jackson Ryker push on Monday Night Raw. Unreal. Elias and Ryker, get your pillows ready, folks. It ain't going anywhere. WWE's keeping Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, off of television on purpose. Really? Keep him off television permanently. It's a dead act. Bringing him back because fans are in attendance will do nothing. The supernatural shit has been ruined because you've overstayed your welcome with Alexa Bliss. Blood and fucking black goo, dolls, fire, magic. You've overstayed your welcome, man. Anything that Bray Wyatt does upon return will now be looked at as trash because you are doing what you do with Alexa Bliss. Now, I was in the camp of Alexa Bliss is in the best role of her career, playing a sidekick to Bray Wyatt's quote-unquote Joker. She was her Harley Quinn vibe character meshed well with the Fiend's Joker-like character, right? She was Harley Quinn to his Joker. It was great. She was doing the best acting job of her career. Now that she's the star of her own show, it's like a spinoff that is ready for cancellation on primetime television. I can't stand it. It is awful. So Bray Wyatt being back on television, and they're keeping him off television on purpose to ultimately bring him back as some big surprise. How good is that going to go over? How well do you think that's going to be received by fans? It's not. It's not. Orton and Wyatt had their match at WrestleMania. Fans were disgusted by the shit creative that we got at WrestleMania. Now, apparently, that was the plan. And WWE did not deviate away from anything. That was what we saw and what was supposed to happen. But PW Insider had a question asked about Bray Wyatt's absence. And this is what he says via a Q&A on pwinsider.com. And I quote, we're told that Wyatt has purposely been kept off television. It's not a case of any heat for anything, as he is very well liked. The Randy Orton match, we are told, went 100% exactly as planned. So if you bring him back, where exactly does he fit? What I think happened, and what a lot of people think happened, and you could make excuses all you want. I don't give a shit what you think, as if you're a fucking creative writer and you know what's going on. WWE has taken the allure and the magic of Bray Wyatt's gimmick and has transferred that to Alexa Bliss. And they left Bray Wyatt standing alone in a dark corner with nothing but his fucking mask that was supposed to be the biggest thing in WWE and now is looked at as a fucking joke. It's looked at as one of the biggest failures in WWE's history. They did Bray Wyatt no favor at all during his entire run as The Fiend. Started off hot, and then they fed him to Goldberg. He never recovered. Ever recovered. Lost it to Goldberg, won the championship back from Strowman in the summer, was a one-week transitional champion for Roman Reigns. They moved him away from SmackDown to get him away from Roman Reigns because that would be absolute just disaster for him. They moved him to Monday Night Raw, and they did absolutely nothing with this guy. Nothing. So what exactly is he going to do? How is he going to fit into plans when he comes back? Are you excited about it? Because his first go-around was so great. Keep Bray off television. In fact, I would go back to the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt. That was the best version of him, and I honestly think if he goes back to that and comes up with a new version of the Wyatt family, I think that's the best way to go about it. If not, just release him in the next set of cuts and get rid of him. Plus, you've done him no favors. And no matter what you do with him on television, he will have no impact whatsoever. Oh, but he's a top merchandise seller. I don't care. Go buy your Fiend masks and your gloves and your fucking t-shirts. The guy is a fucking joke. And I'm not even blaming him. I'm blaming creative. They took something cool and different and fun, and they put their DNA all over it and ruined everybody's good time. They crashed the fucking party and ended up being a goddamn buzzkill. Creative. That's them in a nutshell. WWE, like I said, is planning to give Eva Marie muscle. Mercedes Martinez and Piper Niven are being rumored. Marie has been training at the Performance Center for the last several months, so it would appear that she will be wrestling on Monday Night Raw. I don't know what else I could say about this. I said this in a OTS Extra a couple of days ago on the channel. Why would you bring Mercedes Martinez back up when she already was on NXT television, promising to win matches and get back in contention for the NXT title? Why would you want to move her up to the main roster? She was already there once, and she opted to not want to be a part of it because you put a fucking mask on her in a group that is no longer even there. So she made the right decision for herself to get out and abandon ship. Now, Piper Niven, I don't see why you would move her from NXT UK to the main roster. It's quite the jump there. Why don't you move her from NXT UK to the NXT US roster? That's the way the natural progression of things should be. NXT UK, NXT, main roster. What are we doing here by moving one from NXT UK to the main roster? It doesn't make any sense. Nobody knows of her. Nobody knows who she is. Nobody knows her work on the main roster. You got to go through several different plateaus, several different sequences before you get to that top of the mountain situation in WWE. Or burial, either way you're looking at it. I don't see how Piper Niven fits into this as being a bodyguard. WrestleVotes is reporting that WWE's plan is to give Eva Marie muscle. Anybody that is there is going to be overshadowed by Eva Marie. They're not going to be over. They're going to be looked at as a joke. Eva Marie has so much heat on her right now. She hasn't even stepped foot in a ring for the second time. So anybody that is associated with Eva Marie is going to be worse off for it. They're not going to be over. Nobody respects Marie coming back. Yet you want to put somebody that everybody likes in Mercedes Martinez, and everybody, with Piper Niven and her, allure, they're big on Piper Niven. I don't see why anybody would not be for Piper Niven. I think she's a great pro wrestler. Why would you put her in that you can't come from behind situation? That doesn't make sense to me. Eva Marie is set to fail. Anybody that you put with her is going to be in that failure with Eva Marie. And we'll see. Listen, I could eat my words on Monday night. I don't think I will. There's a chance. But Eva Marie and the Bellas coming back, you see the direction of women's wrestling in WWE. They want to hype revolution. It's nothing but a marketing tool, a political agenda. That's all it was. They don't believe in women's wrestling. If you did, the Bellas wouldn't be coming back. And Eva Marie wouldn't be rehired. Yet you want to get rid of Mickie James and Chelsea Green and Ruby Riott and God knows who else you want to release to make way for the fucking Bella twins and Johnny Laurinaitis. Isn't Johnny Laurinaitis people power? Isn't he dating the Bella twins' mother? Yeah, what a conflict of interest there is in WWE with that situation. I want to see how well that gets over when fans figure out what's going on. Women's wrestling? Why don't we ask Johnny Laurinaitis? Why don't we ask Johnny Ace what's going on? This is the vision that they want. I thought we were about women's revolution. How are we revolutionizing women's wrestling with the Bella twins coming back? Can you justify firing all these other women to bring them back and sign them to new deals? Awesome. Can't wait for that to blow up in their face. Keith Lee. I mentioned this as well. Keith Lee says he wants to find another way to explain his WWE absence. Bro, listen, just go on Talk is Jericho and just air your grievances, please. Enough of this fucking whining on social media. We all want to know what you are, but it's our fault. People want to know where you are, and Triple H says it's our fault because fans, they want to rush to the conclusion and go on Twitter and go on Reddit and look up everything and ruin their own fun. We're ruining our own fun, folks, for asking where Keith Lee is. We're ruining our own fun, asked Dave Meltzer. How do you question the fans' frustration? How do you care about the fans' frustration about what's going on between the NXT and main roster differences? No, but we're ruining our own fun by asking where Keith Lee is, says Paul. Keith Lee says, I wanted to do something educational but also inspiring to tell you guys about everything since late January. Seems that this is way off the table for now. So with that, I will find another way to tell you guys about everything. It might simply be a video of me chatting with you. We'll see. Yeah. Once you get your release, when the next time WWE releases people, you can go and make that video. We ain't seen that video now. But when you're released, like I expect you to be released, then you can make the video, all the videos you want. I doubt it's going to be anything revolutionary. I mentioned this once before. WWE kept him off TV because they didn't like the way he wrestled, and they thought he was overweight. He was an overweight, fat, black athlete. And they took him off TV because somebody in the company cried that he doesn't look the part, and he shouldn't be on TV because he looks like a fat, overweight slob. I'm sticking to my guns on that. If not, I'd be shocked to know if it's anything else. Finally, guys, before we get out of here, Braun Strowman. Not sure you guys give a shit about Braun Strowman, but Braun Strowman released. He will be back with the company, in my honest opinion. I don't think he's going anywhere else. He's charging a hefty fee for appearances, for signings, and promotional work. So, PWInsider.com is reporting that promoters have reached out to him about possible bookings and asked for his asking price. Now, Strowman apparently is charging 5-figure booking fees for appearances on the indies. Now, the reason for this high 5-figure booking fee is due to Strowman being set financially after signing a big money deal with the WWE years ago that was reportedly for $1.2 million plus royalties and bonuses. It was said that if a promoter meets the right price, Strowman would be interested in doing an appearance. Now, Strowman fired back at this report, saying that he is charging over $10,000 for a booking. It's a lot of money to bring anybody in, let alone fucking Braun Strowman, especially for an indie company. How else are you going to pay everybody else that is appearing on your show if you're giving Braun Strowman $10,000 plus? He says that the report is simply fabricated. PWInsider.com reported that they've been told by several indie promoters that wanted to book Strowman that he wants 5 figures. Now, Strowman could go out there and clear his name. Things have been said about Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman has said things about others, right? He's an idiot. Stupid. He's Braun Strowman. He's not of a right mind. He's got the IQ of a fucking iPhone. Well, actually, that's too smart for him. He's got the IQ of a fucking can of seltzer right here. Braun Strowman is an oaf. He's not intelligent. Obviously, if he was, WWE wouldn't have played Truth and Real Sight with him and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. Everybody thinks he's a he's an idiot. So he's trying to save face here. He went on social media and said everybody in the middle of a pandemic should stop crying and go find a real job. Go find another form of employment. We're all the indie pro wrestlers crying that they can't find work right now. They got a set of Patreons and OnlyFans and all this other shit. Meanwhile, he's sitting comfy in the WWE with what he thought was a guaranteed $5 year deal worth $5 million plus. He thought he was sitting pretty, but he wasn't. But everybody was jumping on him when he got fired. Everybody that you talk shit to, you're eventually going to see down the road again. Everybody that you came up with, you're eventually going to see on the way back down. is what they pretty much said about Braun Strowman. So now, Mike Johnson of PW Insider, who's one of the more reputable sources in the community, who charges for exclusive news, who has sources that you wouldn't even comprehend. Why would he lie to anybody? Why would he reveal or release false information? Not everybody's perfect, but do I believe him in this situation? Of course I do. Braun Strowman thinks he's bigger than he really is. Braun Strowman thinks he's worth $10,000. On one hand, I find it to be ridiculous. I don't think anybody's going to pay him that kind of money because, let's be real, who is he? But I got to at least just a little bit respect Braun Strowman, because if he thinks he's worth that, he's got the balls to put that out there in the universe. If some fucking stupid idiot is dumb enough to pay him that type of money, Braun Strowman looks like an iPhone instead of this can of seltzer. So you got to give him some credit. He's putting himself out there at the top tier price that he thinks he's worth. If he gets it, he gets it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But I don't see why Mike Johnson would be lying. Strowman says it's fabricated. Strowman fired back at this report, saying that he's charging over $10,000 for a booking. It's a lot of money to bring anybody in. But he says this, and I quote, "Let me get this out there, FYI. I have not spoken to anyone about bookings. But if you want to talk business, the email to my agent is in my bio. Thanks for any confusion you may be reading online." Guy is charging $10,000. Don't believe Strowman. He's only doing it because he wants to save face, and everybody was bringing heat upon him even more so after he got fired. He's probably contemplating his next move, but what I do think his next move is that he's going to get a restructured deal with WWE and be brought back, and then we could get the fucking Strowman Express back on Monday Night Raw. That's what I think is going to happen. Guys, I'm getting out of here. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I really appreciate it. If it wasn't up to the standard of quality that you guys are usually known to expect here, I am sorry. I'll be back in the office next weekend, but when you travel on the road, man, you don't really have everything that you need to put on a top-notch production like you do at home. But I think it came off pretty well. We got some solid stuff in for today's show. If you guys enjoyed it, I would greatly appreciate you hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell for all notifications. If you guys want to go check out all the other content live on the homepage, Monday Night Raw, NXT, Friday night, Super Show, AEW, and SmackDown. And then obviously I'll be back on Monday with a brand new week of content. We got Takeover on Sunday as well. How could I forget, man? I'll be live. Takeover in your house Sunday night after the show goes over or goes off the air, and we will talk about that when it's over. So we'll break down Takeover as we see fit on Sunday night. Until then, guys, thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button. Check out Dr. Squatch as well, drsquatch.com. Use code SCRIPT at checkout to save 20% off. And I will see you guys right back here on Sunday night and then Monday with a brand new week of WWE content right here on OTS. See you guys then.